guys, how are you? Hey Faye, hey Tech Death, good to see you guys. Hey Tommy, Joe, Hoosier, it's good to see you. I hope you guys are doing good tonight. We have a good show tonight, and I just want to let everyone know what the premise of the show is going to be. If you didn't read my live details, we aren't going to be talking about any POIs tonight. So if people are here wanting to talk about certain POIs, that's not happening in the chat tonight. So we're going to be talking about the second sketch and where it may very well have come from. So that's what's going to be happening. And as you well know, I have Skip Jansen with us this evening. So I'm looking forward to having him on with you guys and having this wonderful conversation. Hey, Lipsha, good to see you. Hey, Digital, always good to see you. Hey, Alicia, good to see you. So, without further ado, I'm going to bring Skip on. I appreciate my mods. Hey, Anananan, good to see you. I think it'll be a really good show. I'm going to go ahead and bring Skip on so he doesn't have to wait. So just give me a moment. Hey, Skip.
Hey, Kristen. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm good. Thank you.
That's good.
Hey, I see everybody. See Tech Death. There's my girl, Faye. She's here.
Yep, Faye's here.
Yep. Jeff.
Hey, Cicada.
Hey, Cicada. This should be good. You got a good crew tonight.
Yeah, they're usually we usually have a really good bunch that come in. So hopefully we'll have some really good information sharing this evening. I hope.
Tech Death asks, "What's a skip?" That's a good question.
What's a skip?
Yeah, I wondered that myself. That's funny. You do. It looks like. Yep, I see a lot of familiar faces out there.
Hey, True Crime Garage, welcome. Good to see you here.
Hey, yep, there's.
I don't know if that's Nick or the captain, but
probably Patrick. It's good to see everybody, though.
It is good to see everybody. Hey, yeah, Angel Bear.
How have you been doing?
How
have you been doing?
How am I?
Yeah.
Oh, I'm good.
Good.
I'm really good. Yeah.
Hey, one of the things first of all, I appreciate you inviting me on. And one of the things I wanted to discuss a little bit was one of the things I've noticed in this case is people, I think, a lot of us get confused because of how we consume information. You know, we don't consume information in this case in a linear manner or in chronological order. So it's always kind of trying to piece things together, going back and looking at things. So it's easy for things to become muddy and trying to decipher exactly what the truth is and what's not the truth. And so I wanted to talk a little bit about that and how that relates to what I think is the possibility of where the second sketch originated, and kind of wanted to do where interactive, where your audience participates and give their, I'm gonna lay out a hypothesis and then get their feedback on what they think and what they can add to it that might be interesting.
I think it sounds very interesting. I like the concept, and I think they might too. So I'm game if you are.
Yeah, I'm game.
Which what did we decide we were talking about first?
You can put up the one of the newspaper articles is probably there's somebody that I
Oops. How
work
about
with.
this one?
Yeah, that's fine. There's somebody that I work with on Reddit a lot that helps me a lot. That's a really smart person, and I run stuff ideas by them a lot, and they do with me the same. And occasionally there'll be something that will just kind of trigger a thought. And so we were talking. I went back and looked at some of the stuff that was some of the original stories that were released and what law enforcement was looking at early on. And the thing that really stuck out was that law enforcement was asking for information and actually released a bolo, be on the lookout for a hitchhiker who was seen in the late afternoon of the day the girls were murdered with a duffel bag on the Hoosierland Highway. And so I went back and looked at some of the articles, and the one you got up there is, they're asking, they were looking for information. Obviously, a witness saw that person because they wouldn't know if there was a hitchhiker unless they had, right?
Exactly.
But they're asking for more information. And so it's a hitchhiker on that road, and that road goes from, further, but from Lafayette to Logansport. So they're asking for information of anybody who saw that person walking along that road during that time. And a lot of the questions are always the same when it comes to people asking about the second sketch. They want to know where he was seen. Why does the second sketch not have a hat, cleanly shaven? Whereas the first sketch has a hat on, is it cleanly shaven?
Right.
Why does law enforcement think he's local? And if he is local, then why hasn't he been identified? So
no, I agree with you. I mean, for everybody who's wondering, he's talking about the fact that Kim Riley for sure put out information and did interviews about this hitchhiker.
Yep. Yeah, and I want to talk about the dates that this was released too, because I think it's really important. And also, Digital asked a really good question. I wanted to address this. Was that the same person that was waiting for his dad? No, it was not. And let me say this. A lot. Another thing I've noticed about the case, a lot of people will take multiple stories, and it's an amalgamation of the two stories and make one story. The hitchhiker and the guy who was broken down on the side of the road are two different stories. They were seen at different times of day. One was seen late afternoon. The other one was seen at 8 o'clock at night. Okay. So, but that's important to know. It's important that we separate, because I see people all the time calling the guy by the broken down truck a hitchhiker. No, he's a guy that'll buy a broken down truck. He's that's not a hitchhiker. Hitchhiker was seen with a duffel bag walking along the road.
Exactly. So, there's a difference between somebody who's broken down and somebody who looks like a hitchhiker.
And I'm glad Digital brought that up, because that's I'm glad we got to clarify that. But getting back to the statements, you can put the other one up too, if you want to. The next one, it's a different news outlet. These were released on February the 20th. Okay. And I want everybody to remember that February the 20th is on a Monday. The second sketch was drawn on the Friday prior to that, on the 17th. So this was released the next business day after that sketch was released, or after that sketch was drawn. Just something to remember as we go along here a little bit. If somebody saw a hitchhiker walking down the road, or they saw somebody walking down the road with a duffel bag or backpack, whatever terminology you want to use, you would think that's a hitchhiker. law enforcement wouldn't, and remember also, law enforcement hadn't put together the CPS building and a vehicle and all that at this point, okay? And it's like I've always said about the case, I think you need to break it in half. Prior to April 22nd, 2019, everything goes with the old bridge guy sketch, and after April 22nd, 2019, everything goes with the young bridge guy sketch.
Right.
And that's when the information about the vehicle at the CPS building was released. So if you could put up the drawing of the map of the one that's got my little amateur little drawing with the colors. Yeah. Okay. This is kind of a proposed. Remember, this is a hypothesis. Now, and people put holes in all they want, but the yellow line indicates the proposed exit route for each. Stay near the creek bank in the woods until he got to the opening there near the highway, near 25 Hoosier Land Highway. The purple or pink indicates his time that he would have been exposed. He would have been exposed to people in the area, vehicles, passerbys. And so I did a little research, and I went and looked at how far that is. And it's about, and I had help, a lot of help on this because I'm not great at this kind of stuff, but it's about a quarter of a mile. That pink line is about a quarter of a mile. Okay, it's about 450 yards. It would take in a normal walk about 4 minutes to make that walk. So if he went out this way, he would have been exposed for 4 minutes. Okay.
Yeah, I'm hearing you. I'm just letting them know. I'm just kind of showing them what you're talking about. So like he's talking about, he exited here.
Yeah.
He would have been walking here right along the highway, because this is the Hoosier Heartland Highway. And this is the old
and remember, law enforcement is telling us that a hitchhiker, a man with a duffel bag, is seen in a similar area at a similar time. Okay?
Yes. Right.
Right. So it's about, like I said, it's about 450 yards, quarter of a mile. The yellow line's about a mile, just so anybody knows. The law enforcement says that they know he walked a long distance that day. So anyway, he would be out exposed for about 4 minutes. I went to the Indiana DOT to see the amount of vehicles that would have been passing by that time of day. Anywhere from about 50 to 60 cars would have driven by and been able to see this person.
In that 4 minute time period, right?
4 minutes, correct. Now we know there's a witness to the hitchhiker. My question is BG the hitchhiker? Was he mistaken for a hitchhiker walking along that road because they hadn't put the CPS building and the vehicle together with it yet?
Right.
Right. And there would have been no reason for law enforcement to believe he was anything other than a hitchhiker at that point, because, like I said, they hadn't put those two things together. Their aha moment may have been when they got the information about the vehicle at the CPS building and realized, oh shit, it wasn't a hitchhiker. That was somebody walking. The reason, and there was, they had a lot of interest in this person, but they never addressed it much further. They never said we identified that person. They never said we got more tips on it, anything. Right.
Right. They didn't.
Right.
They just asked for that, and the duffel bag I thought was super interesting because somebody had to see somebody that had that.
Also, he was saying that the second sketch, I think everybody's kind of seeing where I'm going with this, but the second sketch is not shown with a hat, right? It's not shown with.
Hey, digital, that's hilarious, and you should write stuff down, just like me.
He wasn't seen with a hat. Maybe the hat's in the duffel bag. Maybe the coat's in the duffel bag. Maybe that's why the sketch is different. Maybe that's why. And I don't have a real solid theory on why, whether the witness of this person was a passerby or a pedestrian somewhere along there as well.
Right, because I know you and I talked about Was it a witness that was a passenger in a vehicle that was coming from
Yeah, I think it's
from Lafayette
possible.
to Logansport?
Right, right. And so, again, law enforcement puts that out at those, because they don't know. They're seeing this guy at a certain point on Hoosier Land Highway, and they're also relating it to the case. So it's somewhere where they believe this person could be involved in it somehow. This person wasn't seen 2 miles from Logansport, and they thought he was part of the Delphi murders, right?
No,
he was seen
no,
somewhere here, right? So,
exactly.
and what another thing that's always been out there is the identification of this person. You got to sketch. You got to identify that person, right?
Well, you would think so. I don't understand why they would have a sketch done so quickly after the murders and then just put it in a drawer.
Yeah, I don't think they would. Everybody I've ever talked to in law enforcement said there's no way that would happen. There's just no way.
They just wouldn't do that.
No, and you would put the prosecutor in such a bad spot by having that hanging out there.
Right.
You want the prosecutor's got to do 3 things. He can't have any loose ends hanging out, and he's got to tell.
Thank you, Captain.
He's got to tell a story. Another thing I think, and I'm not just totally defending law enforcement. I'm trying to understand everything. I think it's possible that they didn't relate this person to the murders that afterwards either, because this person was seen, say, in the late afternoon, approximately 4:00, right?
Right.
They had witnesses that saw him entering at the trailhead at 1:30. I doubt very seriously that they thought he was there for 2.5 hours, and he would have been seen entering at 1:30 and exiting at 4:00.
Right.
So that's unusual that there would have been that much time spent, because they have the 207 time with the girls and all that. Why 4:00?
Just based on the information that you gleaned from Indiana Department of Transportation and the number of cars that would have been going by that area during that time, you can only conclude that somebody in those cars saw somebody.
Exactly.
In my opinion,
yeah, we know
they had to have seen somebody.
We know they saw the hitchhiker.
Yeah.
Law enforcement wouldn't have known about the hitchhiker unless somebody saw him.
Exactly.
Right. So
yes.
So the chances are, if somebody saw the hitchhiker, they would have seen BG as well, and there's even a better chance that it's the same person.
Exactly. And the thing is, Coach just said something really good here. They didn't know there was a murder until the next day. So this stuff would not have been paid that much attention to anyway.
Exactly. That's right. That's exactly right. But so if law enforcement knows, the person comes in and tells them about a hitchhiker, right? They would have asked, well, how well did you see this person? Could you do a sketch for us? Right.
Right.
And so that's the hypothesis. And I just wanted to see how your audience think. Another thing too is a big question I see on Reddit all the time is why does law enforcement think he's local? Right. And if he is local, why hasn't he been identified? Okay.
Yep.
Well, we don't know that the person who saw him is local. I mean, think of it that way. I mean, if BG may be local, but the reason he had been identified is because the witness is not. The witness could have passed her by on Hoosier Heartland Highway. Very
true.
And so I wanted to throw that out there, everybody, and just see what everybody thought. It answers some of the questions. It answers, the hat. Why is the hat? Why was the second sketch have a hat?
I think we have to remember too that when they did the first sketch that was put out in July, which we call Old Bridge Guy, they told us at the time the hat may or may not be relevant because they couldn't agree on a hat.
Right.
So they told us not to really pay attention to the hat, but obviously I think we all know that people went kind of crazy with the hat.
Yeah, well, they said that even the witnesses didn't agree on the hat,
Exactly.
So anyway, it's I think it's a possibility. It explains a lot of the stuff. I think the biggest thing for me was at the end of the day is, I'll go back. I said this earlier, but go back. The sketch was done on the 17th on a Friday.
Yes.
This information was released. The bolo was asked. This guy was asked about on the 20th, the Monday, the next business day. That means the witness for the hitchhiker had just been in law enforcement's office, right? Had just been there and told him about this hitchhiker. That fits in exactly to when the witness for the second sketch was.
It does. And if you think about the hitchhiker, and just like Joe said, the fact that nobody would have thought about him or given him a second thought that day because they didn't really know what had happened. At this point, they only had missing girls. And then they get the sketch because somebody saw something. So they get the sketch. Why isn't the sketch put out? What do you think is the reason?
Is when they put out the be on the lookout?
Yeah, I guess I'm wondering, they get this sketch from this, who we're trying to, figure out where this first sketch came from, and just to say, hey, if this was the hitchhiker, because we're not sure, we don't know, but if it was the hitchhiker, why wouldn't they have put that sketch out? It doesn't make sense to me, really.
Yeah, I agree. I think it just may have been a mistake that they may have talked about it and just decided, because when they put out the information about that hitchhiker, we never heard another word about it. We never heard that anybody called in about him again.
No,
I saw him up the road further towards Loganport or anything. It was.
So my thoughts on all of this is, okay, let's just say that this hitchhiker was actually Bridge Guy walking out of the woods and headed towards the CBS building to his vehicle, as a lot of people believe he exited.
Right.
When the second sketch becomes relevant again, where it all of a sudden appears and is showed to the world, is in 2019. Tell me why, or tell us why that happened. What happened in December of 2018 and January of 2019 that would have caused this to all come to fruition?
The information regarding the vehicle at the CPS building.
And well, first of all,
like I said, that was their aha. But that was when they realized, hey, this guy was a hitchhiker walking toward Logansport. This guy's the killer who was walking toward his car. Somebody just saw him walking along the interstate, and he appeared to be a hitchhiker.
But do you think that it was because GBI got involved?
I think so. Yeah.
So like GBI gets involved, which is the Georgia Bureau of Investigation, for people who aren't aware. They got asked by ISP to come in and do a peer review of the case and look at all of the evidence and the direct evidence and everything, and all of the witnesses and all of the interviews and all the statements and stuff. And that is when I think they may have missed the hitchhiker. And the Georgia Bureau of Investigation is like, wait a minute, what about this guy?
Yeah. Well, I think that once they realized that, hey, if this is the place they saw him, in this 450 yards between where he exited the tree line and where into the CPS building. Somebody saw him there and thought he was a witness. Law enforcement, up until they realized about the vehicle at the CPS building, there would have been
Right.
no reference to that.
All they thought was they had a hitchhiker. They didn't. Yeah.
Exactly. But once they realized there was a vehicle at the CPS building, they realized, hey, this guy wasn't just a hitchhiker. Because they thought early on, they asked, that you can see it in the newspaper article, they wanted to know any information about the hitchhiker and any information about the duffel bag. They thought he had ditched the duffel bag somewhere. They didn't think he had thrown it in the back seat of the car.
Exactly.
So anyway, I thought that would be something interesting to run past your people and see your audience and see what they think. I think there's some validity to it. I think it's
Hey AJ, good to see you. No, Joe, I don't think we all agree that he exited through the cemetery.
Yeah,
I don't think we know for sure.
Yeah, here's
it's hard to all of us agree.
Yeah, here's what I
don't know for sure.
I'm going by what law enforcement said. Law enforcement
exactly.
2019 press conference said, led it off with, we're asking for information about a vehicle that was parked at the abandoned CPS.
Yes.
Okay.
Law enforcement has basically told us that they're interested in this CPS building. They're interested in the vehicle, the driver of the vehicle that was parked there from between noon and 5.
Yep.
And they know that. So for some reason,
they led the press conference off with it. It's almost like, hey, this is the new information that we have that it is going to explain why we're releasing this sketch. So
it's okay, Joe. That this area right here where this yellow line is, all this is it's telling us the bodies, they're really more down here. It's not up here, but it just gives us an idea that he walked this way through the woods and came all the way out here, right by the Hoosier Heartland Highway. That's what we're saying.
Yeah. They've said that he wasn't seen exiting the trails. He left in a different way. Two things. If he's parked at the CPS building, he had to get there some way. Right. You
want to address this statement?
Yeah, no, I don't think he was peering at cars. I think somebody may have. I'm not even thinking whether it was someone in the southbound. He was walking north, by the way. Southbound lanes or the northbound lanes. Somebody could have been driving by. It's kind of a curve there, and just looked over and he kind of caught their eye, or whatever.
Yep.
It could have been brief.
Yep. So yeah, I don't think whoever this is that came out of this area and walked to the CPS building to the car, they were assumed to be a hitchhiker. I don't necessarily think they were acting like a hitchhiker.
Yeah, I think because they had, anybody who's seen walking down the side of the interstate with carrying a duffel bag, why would you think he's anything but a hitchhiker?
Right.
Right.
Yes.
So, and again, it would explain why there's no hat, possibly no coat, why the second sketch is so different than the first one.
Joe, towards Logansport.
Yeah, towards Logansport.
Right. This arrow is pointing towards Logansport on the Hoosier Heartland Highway. So Pookie, I'm not sure. I've heard people talk about the fact that they think that the car was moved from here and over to the private drive, and it was supposed to be an abduction and they were trying to get him in the car. Obviously it's possible, but that private drive, that's a long direction to have to go around to get to that private drive. if you look at the, and I don't have a good map up right now. I could try to find one.
Hey, remember, it's an important statement. Law enforcement said they know BG walked a long distance that day.
Yes.
The private drive is not a long distance.
Yes, right. I'm sorry, Captain. I apologize. It is a vehicle, not a car. It
Yes.
could be a pickup truck.
Correct. Yes, that's right. Yeah. Likely.
A white pickup truck.
That's a rumor for sure.
It's definitely a rumor, but yeah, no, yeah. The thing I always held about that was that they already knew what vehicle it was. Law enforcement knows the vehicle that was parked here. They were looking for the driver, and they were talking to the driver, in my opinion.
I would agree with that.
I mean, on that, when you go back and look at that press conference from 2019, you can say a lot of things about that press conference, but they were talking directly to someone, to an individual.
Yeah. You know, it's funny.
In my opinion.
Yeah, it's funny. The sketches are always a point of contention, always a topic of conversation. Why, who was it? They did multiple sketches here. It's all that stuff. The only sketches that are relevant are sketches that were seen by someone who was in the time frame of someone who could have committed the crime. I hear people say all the time, well, there was a sketch done of Mike Patty. Well, he didn't get there till after 5 o'clock. That sketch is irrelevant. If they knew, they would have known that.
Right.
But I think the point where that law enforcement says, two things. He walked a long distance, and also that that they led about the CPS. That definitely goes with. That's new information that led them to release this sketch, right?
Right.
And the one piece of information I would like to know is when exactly did the information about the vehicle at the CPS building come in?
Yeah, that would be really handy information.
Yeah.
Was it a tip that they got in 2017? Was it a tip they got in 2018? Did they find it out
in
early 2019?
Yeah, this hypothesis is right, then it would have been probably later on, because we know there was never any mention of that vehicle until the April 22nd, 2019 press conference.
Exactly. Which, again, it leads me to believe, I don't think a lot of people understand the amount of data that these police officers were gathering in a very short amount of time. Right. When you're talking about 50,000 tips coming in, and each tip has to be looked at and vetted and all of that, it's really easy to miss some things. They're only human beings. They're not, robots. And even though they had the FBI helping them, it's quite possible that even if they did have that information, it was something that got missed. And then when they did have the peer review, it got found out.
Yeah.
And they were like, wait a minute, this is important. We need to be, looking at this. But I firmly believe that you're right, that it was probably information that came in later. And that's when they had the aha moment. And that's why we ended up with the April 22nd press conference.
Yeah. I just, on February the 12th, 1 week after the murders, they were hot on this trail. They wanted to know who this hitchhiker was. That tells me he was seen in an area where it was very suspicious.
Do you want to answer this?
Yeah, it says, okay, so what is the relevant time frame in your opinion? When do you think Bijou was definitely gone? I think he was probably gone. I've gotten information from a friend of mine who's close to the case that law enforcement knows Bijou was with the girls until at least 3:35. If he would have made this walk out, he was probably gone by 4:15 at 4:30 latest. something in that. Like, and again, that goes to law enforcement thinking, hey, a witness saw him at 1:30 entering. If the next sighting of him is at 4:30, I mean, 3 hours. That'd be hard pressed for them to say, hey, that's definitely the same guy.
And you know what's so eerie about that is if that's the case, and he was still in that area around that time frame, that's the time frame that the family was all starting to arrive.
Right, exactly.
And that just is just
well,
it just gives me the creeps to think that.
Yeah, it's even more reason to think that he probably left through let's stay in the tree line near the creek bank to get out of there till he had
exactly. He didn't want to be seen. He was going to try to get out of there the quickest way he could undercover. And to me that makes the most sense. He's not going to walk back the way he came. If he came in and was seen at the Freedom Bridge, as they say he was, by the 16-year-old girl or 15-year-old girl, and that is true evidence, of a eyewitness, he's not going to come back that way. I don't think he's going to take the risk of being seen on that trail. That's just my opinion.
Another question has always been this: if he did park at the CPS building, what does that tell us? Does it, because several locals have told me that that just doesn't seem the most logical place to park because of the distance and because of how out and open it is with 325 that run right next to it. The one thing I would say to that is, compared to the cemetery, the CPS building is the easiest exit, and you can go multiple directions on multiple roads.
Yes, it's a quick exit. You can go different directions very quickly.
Yeah. So does that lead us to believe it was more of a planned, or
yes,
or is the fact that he was at the CPS building kind of out in the open lead us more to believe maybe it wasn't a plan?
I just think that the person who left, in my opinion, wanted to get on this road as quickly as possible to blend in with whatever traffic they could.
Yep.
And to me, that just makes more sense than somebody just driving on a lone road down, out in the country this way or this way.
Right.
It just doesn't make sense to me.
We answered this earlier. It's a good question. What was worried about the younger? It was a Facebook post made by a woman who said that she was driving down the Hoosier Heartland Highway about 8 o'clock at night and came upon a guy by a broken down truck and had a logo on the truck. And apparently he said he was waiting for his dad, worked for a construction company.
And he was supposedly waiting on his dad, but he was also walking towards Delphi to his girlfriend's house, I thought, as well. He told her that.
Yeah, I don't know. I've never been able to find anything where he said he was walking. I thought it was just because she said she talked to the guy and saw a logo. So
yes, she said that. And she also did say that she told law enforcement things that she would not reveal when she talked about it on Facebook.
Yeah. So a couple of things about that is that the 8 o'clock is probably BG was long gone.
Yeah, I don't see why he would be waiting around at 8 p.m.
Yeah, exactly. I think that's probably just I never heard that it was near the CPS building either. I don't know. I don't remember in her statements ever her saying. She said she was on the road was right.
Right. I don't think she ever said exactly where this was. I just know she was coming from work on Hoosier Heartland from Lafayette, and it was about 8 o'clock at night, and she pulled over to see if he needed assistance. Right. And she was kind of freaked out because he wouldn't look her in the eye. Yeah. And there was just all kinds of interesting things about him that gave her kind of a pause, and she really didn't think much about it until the next day when they heard about the girls.
I think that's another example of one of those things where a couple of stories get combined. CPS building because it's on that road. In this story, those two things get combined. Just like this story and the hitchhiker. They're two different things. But
I agree. I mean, it's this. We've talked about it before, but this case is kind of like that. It's almost like a story or a rumor will gain legs, and then before you know it, it's not just got legs, it's got arms and a head. And I mean, it's just people, it's like a game of telephone. And it's just stuff gets added, and before you know it, you have this full-blown non-factual thing. And it's basically combining information.
A couple of things. Jeff asked about the cameras. I was told the same thing. The cameras at the Mears Lot and Freedom Bridge, but none at the CPS building. Also, so I agree with that. And also, Cicada asked about didn't that guy end up being an R? So that's what the rumor is. I think that
that's a rumor. That's never been confirmed. That the first sketch that was put out was supposedly an RSO and was cleared, but that's not really true, because when you look at what law enforcement has said since then, they never told us. If, in my opinion, if they said that was an RSO and they cleared him, the second or that first sketch from July would have, the old bridge guy sketch would have been gone. It would have been null and void. They'd have taken it down and said, disregard this sketch. It's no longer valid. And they never did that.
Yeah, SD asked a question. Why does Skip think that maybe a little DNA was left at the scene? I can't say for sure why such little. What I've heard, the amount is not enough to identify, but enough to exclude. So there won't be an identification via DNA. One of the problems is, and a lot of people I don't think realize, is that in DNA cases where DNA helps solve it, is the DNA of the victim is found on the suspect. They identify somebody early on. They find the victim's DNA in his car, on his person, what have you. That's harder to explain away anyway, as opposed to and I think probably the outdoor element played a pretty big factor in that, the lack of DNA. I don't think this guy's some genius, crime genius, that he was only able to leave X amount of markers of DNA. I think that he got lucky in some aspects, and I think that's probably one of them. I think that being outdoors, because remember they couldn't start looking the next morning until the fog had lifted, so there was a good bit of moisture, and moisture could have compromised the DNA pretty easily.
Did you see the question, Skip?
Which one? Oh. Let's see. What do you think stood out to Brad that he felt he had to report? The vehicle. Likely the vehicle. Because from what I gathered, where he was working that day across from the trails would have been, as you can see the map, you can see where Hoosier Harvest Store is. He would have had a pretty straight view to I think it's likely he's the one who saw that.
Yeah, it's down here. It's right in here somewhere on the map.
It's right where it says, I can't read what that says. But it's
like right here. I think.
It's kind of right in the middle there.
Right there?
Yeah, kind of where it says, right across kind of from the drop-off location.
Okay, because I thought this is the drop-off location, and right across the street is Mears, and then the Harvest Store is down a ways, like right in here.
Oh yeah, it is. I'm sorry, it's right. See where it says
right above where it says bridge.
Yeah, Monon High Bridge Trail.
Yep.
That building right there, right behind.
Yes, it's right here.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
And that's where I believe Brad Heath was working.
Yeah.
Was somewhere around in there.
Yeah, he was working somewhere right across the street, he said, from the trails. So there's not many
I know
big.
people said they thought he was working in the cemetery, but I think when he saw what he saw, he was here. But that, I mean, again, we don't know anything of that because these witnesses are not telling us what they saw because they've been told not to by law enforcement.
Right. And if you just go by his word, by what he says across the street.
Yes.
The cemetery is not across the street.
And Tommy says, you think there had to be an escape route no matter how basic it was, because it had to be, of course.
Yep.
He had to have a way out.
Correct. Yeah. Yeah, I totally agree. And if the CPS building is where he was parked, then I think it's likely this was the way he got out.
Yes. And I agree with that.
You know,
law enforcement has basically told us that.
Yeah. And here's another thing on trying to determine whether it was a planned or whether something went wrong, is why did he enter at the hybrid? Why did he enter where he could be seen, but then leave where he's in cover?
I'm sorry, can you say it again?
Yeah, I'm just saying, if he could have entered the same way he left if he was planning on going and killing someone. Why did he enter at the trailhead?
You mean why did he come in here?
Yeah, why did he come in right there at the Freedom Bridge? If he could have gone in undercover, basically along the tree line, like he exited.
Same way, right? That has always bothered me a little bit, because I'm like, if you have a guy who is coming there intent on doing harm to someone, exactly, why would you risk being seen? Why would you risk, and especially if you see people, and there were supposedly kids there. So when you see people, why would you just nonchalantly walk past them?
Yeah, I don't think you would. I don't think you would. I don't think if that was your plan, I don't think that you would go in there. If you could go in undercover, the tree line.
You would think so. To me, you would think so. We've had so many multiple reports over the years of how many people were at the trails that day. I mean, I've heard, a handful. I've heard upwards of 70. I mean, it's kind of crazy, actually.
Yeah.
Over the years, I've heard many people who go out there on a regular basis say that it is the most quiet, peaceful, and serene place, because there's not ever a lot of people out there at once. So right. I get the kids were out of school that day and stuff, and that, there could have been kids out there. But I just find it odd that if there were that many people out there on the trails that day, how did they all just disappear between 1:37 and 3 o'clock, so to speak?
Yeah.
I mean, that always has bothered me as well.
It kind of seems pretty convenient, doesn't it?
It does. And again, maybe that's why he was comfortable. If Bridge Guy showed up at noon and parked his car here and went out and walked around and, did a survey of the place and the location and knew what he was planning on doing and how he was going to get out, he would have already known that there weren't a lot of people there.
Right. Yeah, that's one thing that's always been puzzling to me, is this guy seemed pretty comfortable. Obviously, just I can't tell that just by watching him on the bridge, by the or second or whatever we have of it, but just to do it that time of day in the open there, it's almost like he knew there wasn't anybody underneath. It's almost like it had to be somebody who had been underneath prior to know that he was not walking down into taking the girls down into something that he was going to run into other people.
Exactly. because,
So
the chances of, I mean, obviously it's February and people aren't out, doing things at the creek or whatever usually, but you would still have to kind of be sure or have some sort of an idea.
you
Did you
would what?
see
Yeah,
Fig
yeah,
asked a question, Skip?
yeah. I was going to say you'd have to know a couple things. Nobody was underneath and nobody was behind you, right?
No, exactly. Yeah.
Um, so I think it's probably that could narrow down some of the people that have been talked about is who would have the ability to know those two things. Just saying.
Oh
Um,
no,
what what
I get it.
what if you
I think you're right. I definitely do. I think it was planned, and
yeah.
I think this wasn't some random thing that was going on here. Um, I just don't. I don't feel that way at all. I never have. But
Well, they're asking what if BG was dropped off at one location and picked up at the CPS building. Um, yeah, it's possible. It's definitely possible. Um, Goes back again to that why enter at the trailhead, you know. So you'd be like if you were entering at the trailhead, the CPS building's a good place to park. It's right there by it,
exactly.
Freedom Bridge. Um,
And
Exit.
why would anybody pick him up here if they dropped him off over here? I mean, let's just say, or if they dropped him off here, why wouldn't they just go back and pick him up there or pick him up over here where he could just walk out of the woods and walk through a quiet cemetery where mostly nobody's going to be? I just think it all happened here.
Yeah, and the law enforcement. I mean, they're going to cover their bases and they're going to cover all their times. They ask for the information about the person being from 12 to 5. So obviously they don't know exactly what time that vehicle was there. They know it was there. They just don't know exactly the time frame.
Exactly.
But I think a lot of that is being based on the fact of timing of when they saw uh, this person.
Right.
And
And Tommy, I agree with you on this. Uh, you know, I go back and forth with that as far as was it was it somebody that was meeting them or not meant to, not meant to kill. And all I'm going to say on that is you guys need to go look at and listen to John Kelly's newest Delphi video. He dropped it yesterday. And I mean, this man is amazing. He worked on the Green River Killer. He worked on the Golden State Killer. He's not just some fly by night profiler. He is good at what he does. And he firmly believes that these murders of Abby and Libby was a budding serial killer's first kill. So go listen to him.
Tommy asked, planned meeting but not meant to kill. Again, these are things that are possible. Yeah, that's possible. I mean, that's
Sure, it's
I mean,
possible.
he could have been there to scare, to intimidate, and it got out of control. It was maybe the girls didn't abide by whoever the demands that this person was making, and he got mad, and next thing you know, things get out of control.
Oops.
So I think,
All right.
I think that's a possibility. We don't know. The bridge abduction component of this case is the one thing that is probably the thing that's been speculated as much as anything, but not, law enforcement has said that none of the reenactments are right.
Exactly.
They got to cross. The couple of things that I don't believe that they took off running across a creek, almost freezing creek, when there's a private drive they could have taken off running up. That doesn't make any sense to me. So that tells me that the three of them went across the creek, in a way that they, together, where maybe the real threat of it hadn't been established yet, or at least to one of them. Maybe one of them had been injured, and they were trying to get get resolved. And he was, part of the thing law enforcement said it was a ruse and a ruse and coercion that BG did that got the girls down the hill. Well, that's one thing about the gun I've never understood is that you don't really need a ruse if you've got a gun.
I think, to me, what I think, what I believe is that we can talk about why or what happened at the south end of the bridge, and we don't really have enough information to know for sure what happened at the south end of the bridge. So all the speculation about this or that can really be something that we can just say, yes, those are all possibilities. But anybody that knows anything about criminals, and especially these types of criminals, they're not going to put some huge obstacle in front of them or in their way if they are absolutely hell-bent on doing some horrific act. And I'm talking about the creek. For me, the creek is big. I get what you're saying, that you think he may have walked them across, and he may have, for sure. But I don't think the creek was where I don't think the creek, he wanted them in the creek. I just don't. I can't wrap my head around that he would want to do that unless it really is just the sadistic side of him and he wanted to see the suffering.
The only thing
that water would have been absolutely frigid.
It would have been, but the creek leads to a place that's out of sight. Is the only thing.
Yes, you're right.
Again, that tells us maybe that this guy was familiar with the area, was pretty familiar with it. That he walked over there, and there's that low part in the land there on Ron Logan's property where they were found.
I thought about this a lot too, Alicia.
Yeah,
where she says that, things could have just happened in the creek to get rid of evidence. It's very possible.
Definitely possible. I mean, that's, that would fit in with, at least, look, he didn't kill the girls simultaneously. Okay. I think that's the part that people are missing. You don't kill two people simultaneously.
Exactly.
One died at a different time than the other, and was attacked at a different point than the other. Now, what those points are, I'm not 100% sure.
Hey, Chris, welcome. Glad to see you here.
We don't know how many. We know 3 people got across the creek. We don't know how many, if all 3 were alive at that point. Did one have to be pulled up the hill? What the person who told me the information about about BG being with them till 3:35 also told me that Libby had been dragged. Not he didn't say, oh, she was dragged up the embankment or anything like that. Just that.
Yeah, Kay, we did talk about Faye, we did talk about that, but at least we're not getting too far off here. We kind of are, but we aren't. I mean, it's what we're talking about. It's like I said, there's so many different things that could have happened. It's not right or wrong. I mean, everybody has their ideas of what. I think that Skip is right when he says that law enforcement has actually come out and said that, I think it was social media or YouTube. YouTube has it wrong. And I'm not sure what they meant by that, if it was the crime flow. I think it was the crime flow.
Yeah, I think so. I think it was most of the people had the theory that it was the girls took off running. He chased them. They went across he chased them across the creek. That doesn't make any sense to me. Not that law, and law enforcement says that's not correct either. So, I mean, I'm assuming that's not how it happened. I think that'll be probably one of the big surprises we find out is how that all went down. I
do. I think we're going to be surprised because I think a lot of things we just don't know. But I do believe that they're pretty confident in this. I think they're pretty confident that he left this way because of the information here that they wanted. So, and like, we've all said, more than likely, after you commit a crime like that, you're going to be hyped up to some degree and you're going to not want people to see you. At least I would think.
Agreed. I think True Crime Garage TV has a good question. It's something you and I talked about prior about the special prosecutor. I know you have some information. I will say. I
don't mind talking about it. I have information. Hold on a second. Let me say
this about it.
Here it is.
The chances of McClellan ever considering his background as being public defender, and the amount of people that he has represented, and I think the chances of him ever prosecuting this case were slim. I don't know if the special prosecution has anything to do with Delphi, but the odds are they'll have to be a special prosecutor for this case as well.
Yeah, Skip and I have actually discussed this. I got this information from Unroyal. He talked to me about it before he put up his video about it, because he was concerned at first whether or not he should put it up. And so we discussed it, and I told him it's on a public record site and there's no reason that he shouldn't talk about it. And I think it's interesting that right here, if you look, it says, and there's more of this subject somewhere, and I've got to find out exactly where it is, but this actually says on or about December 5th of 2021 is the date that's supposed to be here. Incidents that occurred on or about December 5th, 2021. And that was a day before they dropped the Anthony Shots information to us. Thought that was interesting. They granted the motion because they had the request for the special prosecutor. It was granted on the 19th of January in 2022, and he took the oath on the 24th. So there is a special prosecutor working the one case. They only usually work one case.
Right.
That's just, I mean, I did do a live on this a couple of nights ago and talked about how Indiana uses special prosecutors, why they use them, what their terms usually are. There is, hang on. Where is my document? When you open this up, it's not going to open. Sorry. I thought I had it saved, but I don't. In the document, this one here, if you go to my case and you open this up, it says that he has to give a report to the court at least once every 6 months as to where he is within the investigation of whatever it is he's investigating. And they appointed him for 1 year. So that's what we know. I find it interesting that a special prosecutor is assigned the day before Anthony Shots information is released to the public by law enforcement. And all that tells me is the case is moving forward.
Yeah, my thing would be is, what was the need to request the special prosecutor? I mean, is there a case? Is there a case? Or I mean, I don't think you would bring one in on speculation. Maybe.
No.
I don't know. I don't know Indiana law. Or you might.
No, they special prosecutors are. Hold on a second. Let me see if I can pull it up. Wow. You talk to them, and I'll see if I can find this. Hold on one second.
I don't know. But is it because they've got the grand jury is about to convene, or I mean, I don't. It seems like that they would bring him in for a reason, not just, hey, we're investigating a case, and there might be the possibility of charges during the time that you're here. I mean, that seems unlikely. But like I said, I don't know the ins and outs. I do believe though that it would be almost impossible, no matter who the BG ends up being, if that's what this case is about, the special prosecutor is about, that he'll be able to be the prosecutor on it. And the whole thing, it's going to be a hard time finding a jury. It's going to be difficult from a judicial standpoint all the way around.
Right. No, I agree with you. There's a number of different reasons why they appoint special prosecutors. It can be a conflict of interest of the sitting prosecutor. A lot of times, special prosecutors are appointed to do an investigation of something. And my feeling on this is that it could be related to some other case, but most of the time it's a very high profile case. And that's what part of the statute talks about, that special prosecutors are appointed for very high profile cases. I haven't heard anything that this would be associated with Kagan and with his CSAM case.
Well, that's Miami County anyway.
And I was going to say, so it wouldn't have been, that wouldn't be Delphi. Right. And I don't know of any other super high profile cases in Delphi except for the case of the is it Brandon Woodhouse? I think it's Brandon Woodhouse.
Is that suing the
who's suing Tobe Lesenby, and Carroll County for abuse while he was incarcerated in the jail. That's the only other case I could think of. But with that being said, what would have happened on December the 5th? Because something happened. And when I went and looked at his case, in my case, there's nothing. There's nothing that talks about that at all in his case. So to me, it's Delphi related. It's got to be.
Did you find anything out about would a special prosecutor be brought in for a grand jury? I mean, because that's where your indictment's going to come from. It's where you're going to decide.
Well, I did go over and talk about how the grand juries how they work and what what they do with them. The special prosecutor can very well ask to convene a grand jury with what they're doing right now. I mean, he could be just like the captain said here. It just could mean that they're putting together the case to get ready and make an arrest. And to get their indictment, to do that, they may end up convening a grand jury, and that would be done in secret.
Right.
We would not know about that. I sat on a grand jury, so I know how they work, and it is highly secretive, and it's to protect not only the grand jurors, but the case itself.
Right, exactly. And I was just wondering if a special prosecutor would be brought in prior to that.
Yes, it most definitely could happen that way, because they're the ones that's going to be putting the case together.
Right.
And like I said, if this is such a huge case, which I believe it's going to be, I mean, I think we all can agree that it's going to be a huge media blitz, both nationally and internationally, probably. When this case blows up, Delphi is going to be just covered with press and everything else. So I think they want to handle this case with kid gloves, which is why they would assign a special prosecutor to it.
Yeah. What the bad thing about it is the chances of it probably ended up being in Delphi are probably low.
Little Pookie, the captain is from True Crime Garage TV. There's Nick and the captain. This is not the Captain Howdy from YouTube. This is the captain from True Crime Garage, the podcast. Tech Death, what? You are not. He's like, he's at the Kagenstein now. No, you're not. Oh, who names their child after a strip club? Anyway. What does it say? Oh, yeah, let's just says they think this is what's getting ready to happen. I agree with that, because Doug Carter, in his interviews that he did in February, I've never seen him smile like he smiled in those interviews. I just can't believe it. The man looks very confident, in my opinion.
I hope he knows something that we don't.
I hope he does too. I think he knows a lot more than we think he knows.
Yeah.
You know, and that's the way it's supposed to be. You know, we're not the investigators here. We're not
Right.
the.
Yeah.
You know that, and
Yeah.
you know, we're, as much as we want to know more. I tell everybody, as much as we want to know the little ins and outs and everything, you know, we're just not. We're not going to know that until the case actually breaks.
That's right.
Did you hear what he asked you? Or did
Who's
you
that?
see what he asked you?
I didn't see it. I'd say, do you have a feeling of when they will make a move? I don't. Obviously, I'd like to think soon, but that's being optimistic. I don't know where additional evidence is come from or is going to come from. That's the only thing that makes me a little bit leery that something's going to happen. The problem with the Kleins is, can they put either one of them even in Delphi that day? That's when I think that we start really paying attention to that, because until that happens, there's certainly not enough there for an arrest. I mean, talking to somebody, I think understanding the context of things is important. We know this guy, Kagan was talking to Libby. We don't know how many other girls he was talking to. We don't know how many guys she was talking to. So it's hard to say exactly just how important that is. If they can put one of them in Delphi when they say they weren't.
Hey, Jennifer. Thank you for joining, hon. Good to see you. Yeah, no, I agree with you. But I will say this. They do know that Kagan's phone pinged on Country Club Road, and he was supposedly at home. And so that didn't jive. And I don't think he was where he said he was supposed to be.
The whole thing. It was grandparents, home. I mean, I know they were trying to lock him into a story.
Yeah, that particular location was not his grandparents. The location he was at that day was not his grandparents.
Okay. Okay, I got you. Okay.
No, it was not. So his story, they kind of broke that. I think they kind of punched holes into his grandparents' story in the interrogation. Yeah. If you read through that, I mean, there was some stuff I even missed. I went back and reread some of it yesterday. And it's absolutely horrific. I mean, it's some of the stuff that I completely missed about some of the girls that he was talking to, besides obviously Libby. But I just think there's a lot more going on there. I'm not, I'm not saying that they are or are not the suspect in this case. I'm saying that I think that they're involved somehow.
There's something about that Anthony Shots. You're saying something about that Anthony Shots account that's got something to do with the girl's murder.
No, Captain, I don't believe that he was not at the grandparents. Supposedly he went there for dinner that night, but he wasn't anywhere. Nobody knows where he was during the time between noon and 5. As far as we know, nobody knows.
Yeah, that's the problem. We don't know. I mean, we don't know if
Nope, we don't.
we don't know exactly where Kagan was. We don't know exactly where Tony was.
And SD asked about Bicycle Road and the warrant, and I believe that was answered because law enforcement said that they did not find anything of value in that warrant, and nobody at the home was under suspicion. Now that's what I remember.
Yeah, I think it's probably pretty safe to say that the early search warrants probably were due to looking at some kind of digital connection.
Yeah, I think what happened was the boy who lived here at this address probably was on the phone as somebody who was talking to Libby. And that's what led them there. That's just me.
Yeah. Yeah.
I
mean, that makes sense. That makes sense that that was the initial, because that would have been something they could have accessed pretty quickly. IP addresses and things like that of people she was having conversation with. Because the first instinct obviously would have been, hey, this is a really remote area. Somebody had to know they were there. So they're going to check the digital footprint to find out exactly who she'd been talking to.
What does he say? Okay. I'm not sure I know what that question is all about.
What is it? Which one are you looking at?
This one.
Why would a girl do that after double murder, not even wait for it unless she knew Shots was safe?
I don't know what that's about.
To know she would be okay. Oh, I think she's asking why would somebody tell him to come over or give her the address or however that. Are we even positive that happened?
Oh yeah, that's in the interrogation. Yeah.
About the face, about
the mask. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I think Casey is asking is why would that female invite him over or whatever, tell her where she lived if he wasn't, if he was okay, they weren't okay with him.
Yeah. Well, all I can say is, I'm not going to bash young girls for doing that. I don't think that's the right direction to go here. I guess my question would be, why would he do that? Not why would she do that?
Yeah, well, I mean, I think, yeah.
That's where I'm going with that one.
It's not a very smart thing to do, obviously.
No, it's not. But, our teenagers and our pre-teenagers sometimes don't make the right decisions. And that's not any fault on their own. When you're dealing with an adult that's trying to hurt them, it's the adult's fault.
Yeah. Hey, I do have one other question for you before I have to cut out. And that's okay. I don't mean to. I've just got to run. But do you give any? What do you think about the fact that the trooper that was doing that interview, he's part of the child porn case, right?
Dave Vito.
Yeah. What was the reasoning why Holman or somebody, or the head lead detective for the Delphi case, wouldn't have?
I don't know I couldn't figure out who the second guy was. Vito was in there, and I've been trying to figure out who the second one was, and I don't know why Holman wouldn't have been in there either. But I know that the first part of that 194-page document is all about the CSAM stuff and what was going on there. So it makes sense that Vito would be talking to him about that.
The conversation just kind of morphed into the Delphi.
But then what happened is that, then they turned to asking questions about Delphi because they did have proof that he had talked to Libby, as far as the Anthony Schatz profile has talked to Libby. And they have two people signing on to two separate devices in that house doing that, talking to her, because they have linguistic patterns that are different. I don't think people are aware, but the way that we speak, the way that we write, it's almost like a fingerprint.
Yeah.
Because we all have a certain way in which we communicate. I always laugh about that because people think that they are, and you might laugh at me for this, but people think they're smart on Reddit because they can get away with being multiple people, but you can figure out who they are by how they write.
Right, exactly. Yeah, I agree.
So they've already talked about that, and they say that in the interrogation, that they figured that out about the linguistics.
Yeah. I think that's definitely a writing patterns, speech patterns, dialect, all of those things, are something that would definitely fall under the linguist.
Did you see this from Tech Dev?
Yeah, he will definitely jam with you, Tech Dev. Patrick's all about jamming with whoever. He's a serious musician, though. I know you are too, but
I think that's interesting because Hoosier Cold Case is in here, I think, still. Hoosier, are you still in here? And he was playing his guitar early before everybody got here, and I thought that was interesting.
He was. Oh, was that him?
Yes.
Oh, that was good. That was really good. Yeah, I liked it. I think so. I think it was who was Alicia asked about what about thought that David Vito had taken over as the lead investigator on Delphi. I don't believe in 2020. I don't think that's the case. I don't believe that's right.
What is it?
She was asking if the reason Vito was doing the interview is because he had taken over as lead investigator for the Delphi case. And in
No, I don't believe that's true.
I don't know. I think he was. I think it's like you said, Kristen, that the child porn stuff led into something about Delphi.
Yes.
And I think it wasn't he at that time in 2020 relatively new to ISP. I don't know anything about his background. Maybe he is.
I need to check more up on him, but I know that he was assigned. I want to say in April of 2020 to the I think it was to Delphi. I'm pretty sure it was to Delphi, and that's when they ran across he got the digital report, and that's when he found all the CSAM stuff and went after Kagan at that point.
Okay.
And that's how I think that all played out.
I got you. I don't. Like I said, I don't know much about him or why he was the one conducting the interview. Maybe he has more background and training in that. I don't know. I mean, I really don't. It would just be guessing. But anyway. But I listen. I appreciate you having me on.
Not a problem at all, Skip. It was great to have you.
I do hope everybody considers the exit route and the possibility that hitchhiker was actually BG. I think And maybe something will trigger in somebody's mind that something about it makes sense, and they'll come up with something.
Yep, I totally agree. I think it was good to get that out there and have people think about that, because I think it's been lost in the conversation for whatever reason.
It really has, and like I said, earlier, that it gets tangled up with another story, and then it becomes
Exactly.
so
Yeah,
yeah.
for sure.
So at least it's good to clear it up, and
Captain, I really appreciate you coming to my live. That was really cool.
yeah,
And thank you
Patrick,
for
Patrick,
being here.
how much I appreciate you, man.
And it's always great to have you on, Skip. You're welcome here anytime.
Well, I appreciate it and look forward to seeing you again.
Okay, well, you have a good evening.
You too. Thank you.
Bye-bye. So, guys, there you go. That was the discussion that we wanted to have tonight, and I hope that you guys got something out of it. Digital, I got this. I know I did hear that that was a cousin that lived at the address on Country Club Road. So yeah, I did hear about that. Um, I do think that they know that there was something going on there at that address. I think police are onto that. And I think it's only going to be a matter of time before we see even more movement in this case. Um, SD, thank you so much. Um, it's always nice to discuss the case with calm, logical thinking. I so appreciate all of my mods tonight. Um, you know, everybody here was so respectful, not only of Skip, but of me, and I appreciate it. And you were all nice to each other in the chat, which is what's expected. I really appreciate all of you for that, because I think it's just like Skip said, the more we discuss the case and listen to each other's ideas on the case, the better off we are, because you can always gain something from someone else's thought process. And I wrote, what got this started is I had wrote about this hitchhiker back on Reddit. Oh Lord, it's been over a year ago. And Skip he found what I wrote, and he messaged me about it, and we started talking about it. And he was like, "You have really broken this open for me." He said, "I really feel like this is really important and we should be talking about it." So the more we talked about it, he's like, "Why don't we do a show about it?" And I was like, that would be really great. And so that was how this all came about. And I did see that the Murder Sheet dropped an old podcast that they did right after the True Crime Garage podcast with Skip on it. And hey, Jerry, good to see you. I'm not sure. Hey, Captain, you have a really good evening. Thank you so very much. Much. You're welcome here. Thank you so much for coming. I love you guys' podcast. You and Nick do a good job, and I do appreciate you. It's, what I was saying was that, we get lost sometimes on why people do certain things. I was kind of surprised this morning when I woke up and had that old podcast that they had downloaded today, knowing I was having Skip on tonight. And there's a lot of controversy around Skip, and I'm very well aware of it. Very well aware of it. I lived it with him on Reddit. I watched it and all of it unfold. And he really does have the goodness of this case at heart. He wants to see it solved just like anyone else does that's out here. And so I think he brought some good information to us tonight, and obviously we got a good, we all got a really good conversation going. And I love the fact that I have so many musicians in my live chat tonight. I'm just like, this is so great. I mean, I didn't know who's your cold case. I did not know you played, for one. So I think that's pretty cool. Would love to hear you. I don't know. Maybe I did. Did you play on your old channel? You have to tell me if you did, because maybe I did hear you play before. Thank you, Susan. Thank you, Susan. I certainly appreciate you saying that. I always felt that, he was just horribly treated. So, I thought the captain did a really good job. I thought he did a really good job, and I also thought that they actually said really nice things about him afterwards. They don't have to agree. We can agree to disagree. We don't. I guess one of the things that bothered me, and I'm just going to say this, they were so critical of them releasing Skip's theory at the time with DP, even though they did the exact same thing that the murder sheet did with all the information that they've been releasing. They contacted law enforcement and asked law enforcement, "Hey, we're going to do this podcast. This is what we've got. We're going to we're going to release this. Do you want us to not say any of this? Is there anything that we're doing here that might harm the case?" And they did not respond to them. So, that's all we can say. Yes, that's where it was. That's where I saw you. I saw you on Incog. That's right. Oh, that's cool. Well, you know what, Hoosier? If you're up for it, I'm going to have you on a live, because I absolutely love your channel. I loved it before. I was so sad when you were gone for a while. I'm so glad you're back. Hey, Ivy. Glad you're here. And I just can't say enough about you. And for any of you that are in here that are not aware of who's your cold case is, he is amazing on Delphi. So please go look up his channel. I will drop his link in the description of this live for anybody that needs. Hey, Unroyal. Hi, Unroyal. I'm so glad you made it. Yeah, you are a little bit late, but you know what? You are excused. You are excused because you're 7 hours ahead of us. So it's okay. But I am glad you made it. No, it's true. I mean it, Hoosier. And I really would love to have you on sometime. So he is a great channel, Joe. He's one of the mainstays of Delphi, in my opinion. You're not going to get bad information on his channel. You're just not. And I love how he presents it. He's just a stand-up guy. So one of these days I'm going to get a panel of people. And just, I had a couple of people reach out to me. Tech Death was one of them, and asked me to see if I could try and get John Kelly to come on my show. I want you to know, Tech Death, I did email him. I did get a comment back from him on a comment that I left on his latest video. And so hopefully, or maybe I'm just, hold on a second. I don't know what I did there, but there we go. So hopefully I will hear from him and see, Hoosier's close, and that's the thing. He is close to Delphi. He's been out on the trails many times. He's done the memorial walks. He's got some of the best footage. The boots on the ground videos that he did are some of the best I've ever seen about the actual trail itself. And I just think it's great. I think it would be really cool if you guys got together and had a jam session live. I mean, we could bring you on. I could bring on Hoosier and Tech Death and, you know, whoever else wants to play, and we could have a jam session. I think that would be really cool. And have some really good music. Everybody knows that Tech Death does music for a lot of the YouTubers. He did the intro music on my channel. He has done he did the music for Cop Facts' recent movie or TV show thingy that they were doing. Is that right, Tech? It was is it a movie or was it a documentary? I can't remember. But anyway, he did the music for that. And Alicia says the same thing about how the boots on the ground, she agrees with me. And so which witness, Susan? What witness? Yeah, okay, yeah, it was a short film. Yeah, you said a short film. Hey, country girl. Good to see you. Those are some really good ones. Wouldn't that be good, Livsha? I think it would be really good. I don't know if I could get Hoosier to do it or not. He might be afraid to be on my channel. But yeah. Oh yeah, the witness. Yeah. Now I know what you're talking about. Yep. Yeah. Well, you know, you're very welcome, Jamie. You really do need to look him up. If you haven't, you will not be disappointed. Let's put it that way. And Tech Death's channel has some really great music. You guys should go check that out as well. I love his music. So let's see. Oh, wow. Hey, AJ, you snuck in here and I didn't even see you. I am so sorry. How are you? Thank you so much for being here. I appreciate you so much. How are things down under, my dear? They know him? I did not know that. That's interesting. Oh, good. Hey, guys, AJ put the links for me up in the chat. So you'll find Hoosier's link, Tech Death, and Unroyal's channels. They all are absolutely awesome. Unroyal has got some really good content, guys. He is straight up the real deal. And I really appreciate him. Hey, Jack. It's okay. You can watch what happened with Skip on the replay. The replay will be up when I end the broadcast, and then you'll be able to see the chat. It usually takes a few hours for the chat to flow in from YouTube. It doesn't come up right away. Oh, thank you, Unroyal. Yeah, that's what I thought, Joe. Joe's like, wait, you're saying the murder sheet knows this witness personally? Well, all I can say about that is that particular witness comes from a very prominent family in Delphi. So it wouldn't surprise me. Just because of the prominence of the family. I don't know about why or what, but, and I hadn't heard that either. So, okay. So they recognized, what they said is they recognized the initial DP. They knew who that person was they were speaking of, which, you know, in my opinion, I didn't. I had to go find out who that was because I had no idea who it was. So I'm glad you both are back. I don't want you to go anywhere. Do you hear me? I would be upset if you did. So I'm just saying that. And I'm so glad to see that Hoosier's back. I know there was a lot of stuff going on when he did leave, and I'm just really glad he's back. He's got a lot to say, and what he has to say is important, and I think that we all need to listen to what he has to say. And it's so easy. He said, you got too much down in the muck. I learned you really just have to come and do what you were here for, and the rest you just got to ignore, because it can suck you in and devour you. It's exactly right. I cannot believe all the drama that is around Delphi on YouTube. It's bad enough on Reddit, and I lived it in my Reddit sub. I started my sub to get away from it, and it's here every single day on YouTube. Somebody is creating drama with other creators or whatever it is that they're doing, and it is sad because it can really get you down and depressed. So I really understand. I've just basically decided that I'm going to continue down my lane, stay in my lane, do my show the way I want my show done. And Jennifer, God love you for being here. She is so right. It can be so toxic, as can social media. I think we've all seen that, the toxicity that can be around social media in general. So, I don't want anybody to bash the murder sheet. Now, just remember, Anya and Kevin, I like them. They were on my show. I think they're good people. I think Anya and Kevin have an excellent podcast. Everyone should listen to it. But, again, just because you like someone and you think they have really good content doesn't mean that you're going to always agree with what they're saying. It's okay to disagree. It is so okay to disagree, you guys. We need to disagree with respect. That's where it's at. And treat each other kindly. That's just what I'm hoping. And I really do hope I'm building a good community, Jamie, because I really truly believe that there are really good people that want to see Delphi solved, and they're out there in the midst of all of the other noise that's going on, and we just need to keep at it, keep talking about the case, keep bringing light to the case. One of the things that John Kelly says in his new video is he believes that YouTube and Reddit and Facebook and places like that actually helped to possibly prevent other murders. And Oh, Jerry, thank you so much. Thank you so much for saying that. I really, really hope that I do. I try. I really do try. But what he said was that by us talking about it and always having it out there, it keeps the light on it, and it makes the perpetrator or whatever less likely to want to offend. Um, and maybe he's right. It's we've we just got to we have a voice, we have a platform. I believe this wholeheartedly. For those of you that didn't see it when I first got in here tonight, how we choose to tell their story matters. It doesn't matter what case we're covering, but how we choose to do it matters. And we have to do it with integrity. We have to do it with facts. And the captain talked about on the murder sheet how, he brought this theory and Nick wasn't so sure. Nick is the one who is the true crime guy. And, Nick finally said, yes, we need to do this. So they do a really good service. I mean, True Crime Garage has a huge podcast and a huge following. They've done like over 500 episodes. I don't know how many cases that they've covered, but a lot. They have, and like I said, they do have a huge following. No, they're probably not always right. I may not always agree with them, but again, I think that they keep the light on cases that people may not hear about in any other way. And little Pookie is right. She said think tanks work, and they do. When you get people together and you start thinking about things and bouncing ideas off of each other, that's how things get worked out and solved. It doesn't matter if it's a social issue or if it's whatever it could be, something at work, whatever. It always helps to have that. So this interview, Ricky, this doggone it, Ricky, the captain's interview with the murder sheet happened way, way before the Kleins. This happened, I want to say it was at least a year and a half ago. When that happened, it was right after Skip Jansen appeared on True Crime Garage's show. So you can go to True Crime Garage's YouTube channel. I believe you might be able to find it there. I'm not sure, but it used to be up there anyway. But yes, this definitely happened. That's when it happened. It's nothing new. This is not a new show. This was not a new interview. This was old. And I wish they would have said that when they downloaded it, but I found it odd. So, yes, I'm absolutely positive. Absolutely positive. So let's see. And yeah, they didn't interview Skip. They actually sent Skip questions through email and he answered them for them. And they didn't have them both on together or anything. So he said they were always kind to him and everything. So that's what Skip's take was on them to me. So let's see. We do love little Pookie. Little Pookie has good ideas and a good heart. She's always bringing the wiseness into our chats. Yep, Ricky, you're totally fine. Yeah, not a problem. It was because they didn't have a YouTube channel until all this stuff with the clients and them downloading the information and stuff broke. That's when they actually started their YouTube channel. It's always been just their podcast. And I just think they're uploading past podcast episodes now to their channel is what they're doing. So let's see. Oh, Tommy, good night. So glad that you got here and spent the day or spent the evening with us. It was nice. Yeah, Ivy, good question. I really don't know what that was all about, but anyway, I thought we had a good show tonight. I thought Skip brought a lot of good information and had us thinking about things, and it was nice to see the captain in here and all the people that came. I'm happy for that. So, hey, Jane from the country, good to see you. Welcome. Always nice to have you in chat. Hey, Grizz, what contest are we talking about? Did you guys all start a contest and I didn't know it? I need to know what it's about. Country girl, it's okay. You can watch the replay here really soon. So it's okay. But you guys, I'm going to get off here now. I really do appreciate each and every one of you. I hope you enjoyed the live. It's always good to see you. Somebody, oh, he wants a guinea pig first. That's so funny. For you guys who don't know, Tech Death raises guinea pigs. So that's where that comes from. Yes, I agree with that. It's, Jennifer, thank you so much for coming. I always love to see your smiling face. You always make me, I just always feel better when you're in the chat. I know you're taking care of things. I know you're keeping an eye out. And I know that all of my mods, I have the best mods ever. And I got a lot of them from Graz. Real Chill Graz is my mentor. For those of you who don't know, he's the one who got me to start my channel and told me that I would be good at it and that I had a lot to say. And as you guys know, I like to talk. So there you go. But anyway, I have absolutely the best mods, and they really look out for me, and they help keep this channel what it is, because without them, it's really hard to do a live stream and keep track of everything that's going on. And I am just so happy that we had a great night. I don't think we had any riffraff in here. I don't think there were any trolls that I saw. And I'm just, AJ is a super mod. So, hey, Michelle, good to see you. How are you doing? Haven't seen you in a while. It's good to have you here. But little Pookie, I always love it when you're here. I certainly absolutely do. You bring such good things to my chats. I really love it. I miss Maria too. I'm not sure where she is this evening. I think she had something going on, but I do miss her. I'm sure she'll be back around tomorrow or the next day for sure. Is what old, Susan? Not sure I knew what that was. You're welcome, Michelle. I'm so glad to see you. Like I said, I haven't seen you in forever. So it's really good to see you. Thanks, Lauren, for putting that in there. Lauren says that the murder sheet episode with the captain originally happened on August 10th, 2021. Thank you. Good night, Jane. Have a good evening. Yeah, Little Pookie, you mean a lot to us, just so you know. Don't forget it. You mean a lot to us. So you always have a place here in our chat, that's for sure. It's been way too long, Michelle. Way too long. I'm glad you're here, though. So yeah, I'm just gonna jump off and tell you guys good night. And I hope that yeah, Tech Death is tired. He woke up to do my show and now he's going back to sleep. So hey Josh. So Joe, if you give me a couple of minutes tomorrow, I'll try to help you. I will reach out to you on Reddit, okay? And I will try to help you on how to use it. It's not hard. So I'm not on Facebook. I do not have a Facebook. So I'm not there, but I will, if you reach out to me on Reddit, Delphi's Daughters, you know how to get a hold of me, I believe. So just message me there and I will try to help you. I've just been so busy. I'm not trying to ignore you or anyone else. It's just, it's kind of crazy running a subreddit and having a channel on YouTube. So, but you guys have a good night. Brad, so good to see you tonight. All of you guys, have a good evening, okay? And everyone be safe out there. I appreciate you all.